in double figures, and here's George in the baseline with his first shot.
Yeah, but did you know?
You're out of Kansas. He guards George now, and George right over the top.
On the wall. Don't throw it back to him. There you go. That's why they just threw it back to Paul. Don't throw it to Jim.
Back in, and George is open for three. It was really good to see him. Here's George. Otto Porter is back in with a couple of fouls. And now to George in the corner for three.
Good patience there. That doesn't have to necessarily have the ball.
George for three.
And that's the play where they set the screen. John Wall tried to get a foul.
George for three. Got it. Matches.
Yeah, well,
Washington rallied late and played well as Paul George gets it in. The pick again here in D.C. George for three.
Yeah. What they did this time is they physical.
George takes the contact and scores.
Really good one.
George.
Yes, and one. Yes, and one.
The extra effort he's putting out on the floor tonight.
George.
Splits the defense. Got it in the foul. Big shot by George.
Paul George down the lane. Floating gun goes. 11-8 Pistons. Driving is Paul George and scooping and scoring. 16. The Pacers 14. Paul George stops and fires and fills it up. 15. Turner screens for George. George for three. He knew it was through. Yeah. Jeff Teague, top side of Paul George against Stanley Johnson. George leans deep left for Lavoy Allen. Now Paul George puts it on the deck. Stops and fires, fills it up. Get it first. George from Teague, fires from the top, fills it up. Misfires. Lavoy Allen corrals the rebound. Nice job by Allen. And he gets Paul George a play in the third. Paul George fires, fills it up.
George, his shot short. Turner gives him another opportunity. George into the lane, off balance leaner, and he gets it. No look pass out to George. One-on-one with Henderson, one of the better wing defenders for the Sixers. Paul George with a crossover pull up by three. And that's their largest lead. Fadeaway by George is good. Indiana with it. Paul George with three. George strides into the lane. Left-hand scoop at the buzzer is third, and the field goal shooting not much better. George jump stop. Dario got him with the body, and here's a three-point opportunity for Paul. 10 with 10 points. Paul George from out top for three. He made that look easy right away. Paul George trying to draw the foul, does so, converts it, he'll go to the line.
Or 3-on-0. It's really good basketball that these two teams are playing already.
George the fallback. He'll try to back down Kyrie Irving. Needs some help. The fall away goes. George in the crossover move. In rhythm for two.
My goodness.
They can't miss.
Two. Stuckey tried to draw the foul, but George is there for the rebound. George for three. George on the baseline.
Very good move. He went up
by Thad Young. 14 points, 9 rebounds tonight. George creates the contact and scores.
Yeah, to get it to Paul. So to me, it's easy to go away from him, let him set a screen, and let him knock down a long. Harrison got hurt, and without Harrison, they end up keeping Conley on the floor. Anticipation there by Conley. There you go. That's a nice little pass and kick there. Really good job by C.J. Miles.
George caught it, and it counts.
That counts.
Paul George, back-to-back threes.
Yep, a wealth of knowledge. Fun guy to talk to.
Paul George had your rebounding stats at least early. George, nice feed inside to Turner, and Hernan Gomez, 19 shots, only 2 from Carmelo Anthony.
Pacers getting into a groove now.
George easily. Holiday, good job getting in front of George, who throws one up and knocks down the three.
George, 17-footer.
George drives and banks it home. Anthony was 6 turnovers. What would be your guess for the most turnovers as George knocks it down? Proud because he was such good friends with John since he was very young, as George catches it deep in the corner. He's got the height advantage on Rose, shoots over him and hits.
Baseline George, in and out and back in.
Confidence, but he's also had people tell him to help him understand what he has to do in order to be effective in the league.
A 6-turnover. George for 3. Bench. And they have cut it to a 1-point Pacers lead. George draws the foul and hits the shot.
Tony Snell not playing with the level of confidence he needs to play with.
Defense set.
Back cut. George dunks it.
Somebody comes up with a betterment. He's the gloves kid.
Continue to knock down shots. Have your chance to win this game.
George again.
And that's a loose ball. And that's picked up by George. And he will pound it down. Tuesday night against Toronto. They're just 4 of 13 tonight.
This is a little bit more alert team defensively. Pacers kept moving it
Exponentially because of the excitement and publicity generated. Wow, I told you, he is just each game once again.
Giannis 9 of 11 at the line, 23 points in the restricted circle. Now George brings it across. Paul George, tricky dribble, pull up.
And anticipating that double team coming.
he struggled with for a while as the Pacers look at a mismatch, but advancing it up the floor.
Who, oh, by the way, is a very good defensive player. It's George for 3. I'll tell you what, Paul George has the big guy splitter on him. Rightly takes him and goes all the way in.
Fun in the meantime.
That was great defense by Paul George to knock away the lob for Sean Long, who just came in. And now he gets it from Monte Ellis and drills.
That jump shot, just a huge difference from even earlier in the season. There's your answer.
McConnell, a good defensive player, but now he's given up about half a foot to George.
Poitras threes has cut it to 7. Now George gets inside against Stauskas and scores.
Guys are getting it more and more with Dwayne. And the 3-ball is good the other way.
George in the paint. Dedmon stayed with it, and George still scored.
Pretty much their career is over, and here he is. Back to all-star level.
And unfortunately on cue, trade sending Nurkic.
Yeah, that was a trade that's, to me, interesting.
George on the attack. Got it up and in and an and one. Detroit 36 against the Knicks in New York yesterday. Paul George answers with a triple. The switch and Parker with George. Taking advantage of that size. The shot up and good. 3 seconds to go. Paul George for 3.
Good defensive teams before they can get set. George got it. Hung on the rim in the environment, and the Heat played some of their biggest games in this building. Paul George got the score and the foul on McGrew this game right to the end.
No doubt they're very mentally tough. We know that. Now Josh Richardson is guarding
in for his 5th board of the game. George over Waiters. Big game for their Indiana team, trying to hold on to the number 6 seed going into the playoffs.
Sounds like they went to bed at 5 o'clock.
The real challenge in this league is to be able to get a shot.
Range. 4 straight games of 10 or more, and this time he does not challenge him. He stopped.
This is Rodney Stuckey. Back to George for 3. Clock for the Pacers. This is Paul George from 20 feet out.
Well, he got the ball against Charlotte. You and I sat here. They had a lot of open looks. Shots that typically would go as George.
Pacers with George. A pull-up 3 from the left wing. It's good.
Yeah, Reed and Valanciunas can't.
George in the corner against Patterson.
Well, that's tough when you're in that corner because you can get pinched there. He's just good enough he can make a shot.
First half in Toronto. George has hit a couple of threes. Make it 3.
I'm telling you, because he's Ibaka, but you'd rather come in have him catch that.
George tossed it up and in.
He just made up a shot. He had to.
Still can't get off the mark, but an offensive rebound. Young, here's George.
Yeah, he got a good look. And they got it.
And gets inside, swatted away.
Checked again by Miles. The basket helps him be effective. But
Carroll made 4 threes in early March against the Pacers and scored 12 points. And a tough shot by George.
With Ibaka and Tucker.
Now George, step back. Got it. George drives and scores in a foul.
George misses the shot. Thaddeus Young the rebound. George steps right up again and knocks down the 3-point. Mismatch in transition. George gets it inside to Turner, and Turner finishes down.
As George steals the pass and pulls for 3, but they're going to trap him.
Braun has with the ball in his hand.
Stevenson to George. James now on Paul George.
who hits another three. That's George goes against Kyrie Irving. Pull-up jumper's good.
Before Irving and James.
George, corner three. That's good. Paul George, 24 minutes. That one. George stops, fires, and connects his fifth three. Shoots over him easily and knocks it down. You forget he's 6.
The three-point land and then taking advantage of the smaller Kyrie Irving. That's good defense.